Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good buddies Richard
Hello.
and Michael.
Howdy.
These guys debate and deliberate ubiquitous topics like who's the funniest dog on the internet, or the Mount Rushmore of ceiling fans and things like that. And we've been, keeping audiences
writing these ideas down, Jeff. It's 8 years in, and we're starting to get a little desperate.
We're kind of fumes.
It's like there is gold to be mined.
Yeah. Audiences on the edge of their seats in the leaving their seats positions. But this time around, the Mount Rushmore of Sleepovers. And I imagine you gentlemen with your young children have not just your own personal reflections on that, but you can reflect on how that is for your kids. Is that right?
Well, listen, my son is on the edge of turning 7 as of this weekend. He's 7 years old, and can't believe it. He's slightly younger than this podcast, I believe, which is just also stupid to me.
Wild.
But he is having a sleepover birthday party this weekend, and he is on this actually it's a triple countdown to the end of school, to his sleepover party, and then to his actual birthday. So he's just like running numbers like I don't know, somebody in commercial for numbers. Yes, I mean I don't know where that metaphor is going towards numbers, but so we decided to kind of have a smaller party than the last few years, where we've had like big pool parties over at my folks' place and all these park parties. And of course, it's like me, like, oh, there's gonna be like, invite your 5 closest friends. It's 10. You guys have both been over. We've been in our place for a while. We do not have a big place. I think only half of them are going to stay, but even so, it's just going to be like, it's like throwing meat down in the form of Twizzlers and popcorn and a slice of birthday cake. But it's going to be. Check in on me. Just the next day. Just say, "Are you still alive?" And we'll see. So, I'm very excited for that, and I'm very excited that this topic is, personally topical.
Oh, why'd you get us started there then, Michael? What's your first choice?
My first choice is I was thinking of this in so many different ways, and my first just the idea of the sleepover always involves around like movie and pizza, usually an inappropriate movie, probably to be determined whether it's an inappropriate pizza too. I don't know, but the idea of like going to a friend's house and you're gonna watch a movie, and it's gonna be like something that you're probably not supposed to watch. And I think that happens a lot, at least maybe with the boys sleepover. There becomes this moment of like, we're old enough, we're daring. You're like eating crappy pizza, and it's like, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors is on. And like, do we want to watch this? I don't know. Sometimes you kind of overstep. I think the sleepover is this big, like, overstepping boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
And I think just the movie, and I don't think I've ever slept over at a friend's house and haven't had pizza as well. So I just, this combination of like the movie and a pizza thing, I think is like the paramount thing for a sleepover.
Awesome. Okay, Richard, what's your first one?
All right, first one I have is prank phone calls. A staple of any sleepover that not any, but many sleepovers that I had at my friends' houses. And it was always good if for some reason there was a group of friends that was having a sleepover and I couldn't go, had something going on, so I couldn't go. I knew at about 11 o'clock at night, I would get a phone call from someone pretending to be from the local radio station saying that I had won the contest or something stupid like that. I was good at the prank phone call. I mean, this was pre-Jerky Boy days, so you kind of had a lot more leeway in terms of what you could get away with. The one I specifically remember was calling the 24-hour Doritos hotline when they had just come out with the Flamin' Hot Doritos and complaining that the Flaming Hot Doritos were too flaming hot and they were burning a hole in my stomach. And what is it that's in it that makes it so flaming hot? Maybe I'm allergic to it. Am I going to die because of this?
Yes.
And just getting the lady on the other line very concerned for my personal health. And it's just one of those things where I'm sure it was usually my friend Corey's house, and I'm sure that his parents knew that we were making prank phone calls. But they were just like, "You know what? As long as it's not like at 1 in the morning, and they're probably calling friends of theirs or whatever," and that's
Yeah.
usually what it was. The Doritos hotline. As long as nobody's getting hurt by it or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think Alexander Graham Bell was making like prank phone calls to like minors like
Right.
150 years ago, 170 years ago? He's just like he he's really just pulling one over on that Italian.
Yeah, he was just calling it. It's like, "I know it's you. There are 5 phones in the world. You're one of 5 possible callers." No, and it
I don't think I've ever participated in, been the recipient of, or been the instigator of a prank phone call.
really?
I think all of my jollies I got through The Simpsons and Bart Simpson's phone calls, but I don't think I've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
had like the courage to do it. I mean, this is also, we're talking pre caller ID. This is kind of in the nascent era of like, God, Star 69 could come in and
Yeah.
really bang you on the bad spot there if someone
Yeah.
actually knew about that feature. But yeah, I think probably too much of a, I'm not going to say a coward, but a chicken shit. How about that?
Your first two, I remember doing prank phone calls, but also kind of feeling like you described, Michael, like it was a little too rich for my blood. Like I would just hear people on the other end like, one time some guy just said, "Look, I'm tired. I got a sick child. Could you guys please just stop calling?" It's like at that point, like I, the emotional appeal was all too real for me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too transgressive for me.
Do you have Prince Albert in a can? No,
Yeah.
but my Uncle Albert is very sick.
Yeah. Is the refrigerator running? No, but my child's running a fever, and you just not do this. All right, Michael, what's your second one?
My second choice was one that was inspired by Emily, where she would have a sleepover and she'd be with some of her girlfriends or whatever, a girlfriend, and they were going to watch some sort of scary movie, and she would make her mom. She would like feign some sort of escape plan to get out of there. And I like the idea of there's like this sleepover escape plan that either the kid is just like not into being there and can always call his parents to pick him up. And like thinking of Felix's birthday, where that's like, I can totally imagine that there's going to be this kid that is initially going to be brave enough to sleep over, maybe for the first time, and then it's going to be like 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and the phone call goes out to the neighbors down the street saying, "You know what? He can't do it." And it goes hand in hand with like almost a prank call, but the parents on the other end kind of either knowing they know their kid and they're expecting it and they're just like walking down the street already, or in Emily's case, she was they tried to watch like Candyman, and then she called her mom that she had to like check in, and then she made her mom tell her, just tell me I gotta come home. And her mom's like, what? Mom, just tell me I got to come home. And she's like, you gotta come up. And she's like, oh, all right. And then she had to feign as if that she was an investigator herself. But I think these sleepovers are these exercises in kind of a false maturity, and sometimes the kids just they know that they're not up for it. They need to be in their own bed.
I feel sorry for the adult who thought they were going to have the night off. Like, I've had 2 glasses of wine. I can't. What am I going to do?
Well, sucks to be.
Candyman. I saw Candyman as an adult. I was scared by it. Richie, what's your second one?
All right, my second one. So oftentimes at the sleepover, it's a big group of people. It's usually not a one-on-one sort of thing. And usually it's like a certain group of friends that are all sleeping together, like a certain clique or group of kids who all know each other well.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a group of kids who know each other well, and then there's that one kid who's like the friend of the kid that you're spending the night at. Maybe it's a family friend, maybe it's a cousin,
Mm,
and just how awkward that is when you have to try and tolerate the one weirdo kid who's not
yeah.
part of your group. Now, it's always important it was always important to look around and make sure you weren't that weirdo kid.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's the old poker thing. If you sit down at a poker table and look around and can't find the sucker, guess what? You're the sucker. Kind of the same thing about being the oddball kid at a sleepover. And I just remember like my friend Corey, was for whatever reason he was tended to be the one that we slept over at the most. He had a cousin Randy, and Randy was just a weirdo. But he would have to sleep over every once in a while, and you just had to find a way to sort of incorporate him into the video games you were playing or whatever, wiffle ball games in the backyard. And it was just always it's hard when different groups of people you have to try and get them to come together like for an
Yeah.
adult birthday or something like that or a wedding or whatever. But when you're a kid, you just have no mechanisms for how to manage that societal sort of get together. It's just you don't know how to handle that.
One of the participants in Felix's upcoming sleepover is his younger cousin, who he adores and insisted had to be there. He's not much younger. He's uh, uh, like 5 going on 6 or so, and Felix is 6 going on 7. So he's going to be a little bit younger than everybody else there, and he's kind of outside of his friend group. And but his parents live the furthest away. But he's family, so like I think that there is going to be a very interesting dynamic with him in particular, and I think there might be that little bit of extra care that's goes into effect with him. I'm not entirely sure. That's the one kind of wild card that dreading ish. Sweet kid, but just like when everyone goes to the same school and then there's the one that doesn't, it's recipe for a late night.
That I think at a poker game you would purposely try to invite as many rubes as possible, or but and I know that maybe this will be a topic of a later choice, but pranks happen sometimes to the weird kid. So
Sure.
yeah, that's something I almost feel like I wonder if it was almost like dinner for schmucks or something where you want to try to invite the kid. Like, we need a weirdo, we need a target.
This
Okay,
explains
well,
why I got invited to so many sleepovers at Corey's.
we are at our halftime, and Richard, our last episode, you had a wonderful you implored people in a wonderful way to kind of follow and share. Would you do that again?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're listening right now, wherever you're listening to it, or if you're on YouTube and you're watching it there, click the little follow, like, subscribe button. That's a really important way for us to get discovered. The more people who do that, the more people are likely to also find us through other means. So that's like the number one thing you can do to support us. We're also on all of the social media handles. So Instagram, Facebook, uh, Twitter, Threads. I don't believe we have a LinkedIn because we're not looking for a job as a podcast collectively. But other than that, you can find us pretty much anywhere. So make sure you follow us there as well. And share. Share,
Absolutely.
share, 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 share.
Absolutely. And share your suggestions for future topics, or if you have a podcast or have a pet topic you'd love to discuss, we would consider doing it on our show. So that would be super cool to connect with you that way. And with that, we're going to move on to the third round. And Michael, what is your third choice?
My third choice was the feeling of I always had like a permanent sleepover sort of situation with my friend. You both know Eric, who
Oh,
he was my best friend, grew up across the street, and there was no time that I wasn't welcome over at his house, and no time that I wasn't welcome to sleep over. I was like, this feeling as a member of the family, and it like lasted from when I was like, when I was like 10 years old up until I went off to college, basically. That was like almost like this permanent position for me in the house. And it was like, I never needed to be asked, can I sleep over? I just needed to tell my dad, oh, my mom or whoever, oh, I'm staying over at Eric's tonight. But I had like the idea that you have this other place, that you have like this permanent other residence on like a Friday night or a Saturday night, and you can stay up as late as you want, and the parents don't care because you're a relatively good kid, and you can order a pizza and you're going to watch Saturday Night Live and whatever, play video games. Like the sleepover that becomes something more than just like a special event, and when it becomes something that is just so routine that it's part of your life, I think is something that occasionally can happen if you're close to somebody, especially like physically, like you can when you can literally walk across the street and stay at your friend's house, or walk over a couple blocks away and stay at your friend's house, and it's no big deal. You don't need to bring a change of clothes, you don't need you don't need the whole production of staying over. It's just like, well, I'm just gonna crash at your house, I'm just gonna go back to my parents' place in the morning or whatever, and it's fine. I that was like always something. And the same thing with like Eric was like over, he's like, all right, so you're just staying over. Like there was all this kind of like trust in the air amongst all of it that was just like, it was just fine, just stay over. It's no one needs to run down a list of things that we need to get in order to prepare for this thing. Just everything's cool. And I think that that's like less of a kind of party aspect and more of just like, oh yeah, you're just one of the family or one of the more intimate friend group.
I remember that around high school was the time when sleepovers became less of a thing. And it was more, I'm going to go over so-and-so's house and we're going to hang out. And then I'm going to leave at like 2 a.m. and head home. I didn't have a curfew growing up because I was a good kid and my parents trusted me, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was always like, well, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'd really like to sleep in my own bed instead of on somebody's couch. So I think I'll take off now. And it was around high school when friends started having cars and you had ways to get home at a not so reasonable hour. It felt like, for me at least, that the sleepover and I'm spending the night, we're going to wake up in the morning kind of aspect of it ceased to be.
You're missing.
I can see too, summer. I imagine with Eric, summer was, when you didn't have to be up in the morning for school and
That's
stuff
a
like
good
that.
point,
Yeah.
I didn't have like, I think as you get into your late teens too, summer wise for me, it's like I had like a summer job, but it didn't start till like 10 or 11. I didn't go to camp or anything by that time. I didn't,
Yeah.
You were just kind of, like you said, you're kind of like free and floating and everything's easy going. So yeah, that's a good point.
Sleepovers were kind of a respite. I had friends who had cooler video games and cooler houses than our house. And I remember being really freaking sick. Like I had a hacking cough, and I just decided that I was going to sleep over at my friend's house. And I don't think his mother, he didn't know I was sick. And I was just, he didn't have bunk beds. I was in his bed just hacking. And I think I remember his mom saying, God damn it. Like this ghetto neighbor kid is going to get our kid the pneumonia or something like that. I just didn't want to be sick in my house. It was like horrible. Okay, so Richard, what is your third?
Third one is, it's funny, Michael mentioned watching movies. That wasn't something I remember doing as much on sleepovers. What I do remember is trying to beat a video game.
Oh.
That being a very specific sleepover thing that you did, whether it was Contra or whether it was Battletoads or one of those sort of games, or taking turns seeing if anybody could beat Mike Tyson in Punch-Out, something like that. I think if you were a kid in the 80s, staying up until 4 a.m. to try and beat a video game was the equivalent of binge watching all of a series today.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty much the same thing. And in this case, it was getting together with your friends to do it, as opposed to trying to do it on your own. And there was just something that was so satisfying when it was like I said, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you finally got the last big bad guy killed. And then there's that sense of like release of like, okay, we're done with it. Finally, I can go to sleep. And you would just crash out for like 4 hours until parents came and woke you up at 8 in the morning to have pancakes or whatever.
We always
But
had
yeah,
with Eric and I. He wasn't allowed to have. They weren't allowed to have like a Nintendo in their house for whatever reason. So like he would always want to come over and play Nintendo or Super Nintendo or Genesis or whatever it was. But he always had his dad's like next generation, or his dad would always constantly, he was in like computers, would always get like a next generation computer. So his dad would get like a 386, and so he got his old 286, and then his dad went to a 486 and he got a 386, and so he always kind of like his software kept getting upgraded and he could always had like a personal computer. And so I was always just so jazzed to play whatever role-playing game on the computer, or playing like a King's Quest or Quest for Glory or some sort of LucasArts game, point and click adventure game. Like that was the thrill of like going over specifically and having that same sort of feeling like Richard had, of trying to stay up to beat that one thing over that you could only play over at this place.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Eric came over, it was like, oh yeah, we got to rent a video game. We're renting Earthworm Jim, and we are gonna go through and try to beat that on the Genesis. But like, yeah, pretty yeah, like kind of like just tied. That's all just tied together. That feeling of like, got to complete something, but very specifically. I don't know.
It's funny. I joke now that as a kid, you used to want to stay up all night. It's like now I get mad if I have to stay up all day. Even like if I can't take a nap during the day, at some point I'm just angry. Hell no, I'm not staying up all night. I always love that when you go to spend the night at somebody's house, and I had a lot of sleepovers with cousins because we had a number of cousins. You also get to see how they do their evening and morning rituals might be different than yours. Like you guys shower at night, like it's time for your nightly bath or your shower. What? That's weird. Or they have milk and cookies, or they get up and they wash their feet or something weird, something that's like, that's weird. We don't do anything like that here.
you guys wash?
Over at my house. You guys wash? That was always a funny thing. Okay. So now it's Michael's last one.
I went to pull a kind of like a pop culture sort of aspect of this too, and the sleepover, the pajama party scene in Greece, I think is like,
oh yeah,
the thing that I think when people think of like a bunch of girls sleeping over and having a big pajama party, I think it's that scene. It's that, or maybe it's like Valley Girl or something, but I think Grease kind of tops that with all of its hair being done and nails being done and these makeovers and just talking about sex and ragging on Sandra for Sandy for not having sex and being chased and
being Australian.
they really ripped her a new one for that one. But I think that scene is like, has become like just the indelible image that you can just say, okay, someone, these girls are having a pajama party, and instantly it's all PJs and teddies and sleepwear and whatever, whatever it is, in like a one pink bedroom where they're just super up late, everything. And
whatever it is that 30-year-old high schoolers do.
But
that's fun for sure. I feel like in Scream, was there a pajama party in Scream? Or like, it seems like it's also horror movie fodder too. The sleepover,
for sure.
Sleepover for sure. Richard, what's your final?
All right, final one is having a friend who had a cute sister when you were sleepover. Always exciting, always awkward, especially if they had friends that were around while you were having a sleepover. then boy, I remember like a friend of mine, Chris. He had a sister who was a couple years younger, and she was cute. And yeah, sometimes her friends would come over and they'd be hanging out while Chris and our friends would be over as well. And mostly we played basketball most of the night. Like we would stay up until the neighbors complained playing basketball in his front yard. And if there were girls around and the girls were watching, those games got exponentially more physical and competitive. Like everybody wanted to be suddenly everybody wanted to be Michael Jordan, basically. So that's just that. I think I'm sure it was the opposite was true if you were a girl and there was, a cute brother or cute brothers or brothers cute friends or something like that were over. But I know, and one of my friends, Freddie, like really had it bad for my friend Chris's sister and was like really over the top at trying to put the moves on her, and it was just like awkward for everybody. It was awkward for my friend, awkward for his sister. It was awkward for everybody except for Freddie, who was just oblivious to it and just laser focused on this thing all night.
That's funny. I have a sister who's younger by about 2 years, and I was, by the time I'm 15, and it's still too young probably, but yeah. I also was never a sports dude. I was never a macho kind of boy, kind of masculine kind of kid. So like the games, I think they had an Ouija board. They would do something called light as a board, stiff as a feather. They had these like girl games, and I remember like creeping halfway down the stairway to like the little rumpus room where they're throwing down all that stuff to just kind of observe the stuff of these ponytailed weirdos. Like, wow, they've got a lot of rituals and stuff. Not the craft level kind of stuff, but
Jeff sneaking around like he's Margaret Mead over here, taking notes in his journal.
Okay, well, why don't we go with these for the Mount Rushmore of sleepovers? Let's go with the prank phone calls, because I did it, and boy, that brought back memories. And let's go with the Pick Me Up Mom, because I think I used that card once, and Friend with Cute Sister, and we're going to go with Weird Kid. Good enough? Right. Those are some fun choices.
Works for me.
Okay. All right, my bros. Great to see you. I'll see you at my sleepover.
Okay.
All right, I'll bring the Totinos.
Yeah. This has been the Mount Rushmore of sleepovers. I'm always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.